Food. You gotta have it. You gotta eat. And some people take food for granted. But it's something that you have to store. Something that you have to have in a disaster situation, crap hit the fan type situation, whatever the case may be, you still have to eat. So in this video, let's talk a little bit about food. What you should have. Basically, if you think about the rule of threes, I'm sure everybody's heard about the rule of threes. 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. Well, most of the time that pertains just to survival. However, a disaster situation can turn into a survival situation pretty quick. You never know. For the most part, generally, Americans probably have about 3 to 4 days, maybe a week or two of food in their house and don't realize it. If you ever think about, I've said this in previous videos, what happens if, say they mention snowstorm or something down here in the South, everybody goes running to the grocery store. Well, that's mainly, a lot of that is due to fear and panic, but they don't think they have the food in their house. So if you think about it, in a true disaster, if a disaster happens, grocery stores only carry like 2 to 3 days worth of food in there. And if you figure you got, 5,000 people running to the same grocery store, how quick do you think that food's going to last in that grocery store? Not very long. So you need to store food ahead of time. You need to prep food ahead of time. Now, when you get into prepping, it can get overwhelming at first. I got overwhelmed at first. I'm still fairly new to this. I don't have near the amount of food that I want in the house and that I'd like to have. But you just start out little at a time. And we're going to talk about some things that's going to help you along, hopefully help you out and give you some points to make and stuff. But some people, when they get off track, they see these long-term food storage stuff in magazines and catalogs, and people tell them about them, freeze-dried foods and MREs, and they go out and buy a bunch of this stuff, but they don't know how to use it. So you got to know how to use your food. You don't want to go out and buy a bunch of MREs if you've never tasted an MRE, because MREs, they're not the best things to eat. Yeah, the new ones are better than the old ones, but still, if you had to eat them every day like our poor military guys do, I don't know that I could do that every day. So you got to have other stuff other than just MREs and Mountain House or whatever freeze-dried foods. So how can you go about starting this? Well, what I did is I created a food journal. Now, all you got to do is get a notebook, piece of paper or whatever, a notebook, and start out I did mine for like 2 weeks, and then I just kind of carried it on into like several months. And that'll tell you what you're eating every day. Because what you want to do is you want to buy foods and store foods that you eat every day. There's an old adage, eat what you store what you eat. Well, that holds true. You don't want to buy a bunch of stuff you're not ever going to eat. So create a food journal. And all you need to do is, like I said, get a piece of paper and write down day 1, breakfast. Whatever you had for breakfast, whether lunch, dinner, snacks. Day 2. And do that for everything. You can even go down, and I did it as far as down as when I went to the bathroom and used toilet paper or toothbrush or soap. I did everything that we used, and you'd be amazed. I'm telling you, you'd be so amazed of how much stuff you actually use and don't realize it. So do that. Create yourself a food journal. Then you'll know what kind of food you need to buy and what kind of food you need to prep for. Okay. Well, when you go to select foods at the grocery store, you want to select foods that need little prep or little cooking and require really no refrigeration. Because after a disaster, what you want to do is you want to eat the foods that are in your refrigerator and freezer first. Eat those foods first. Me, I got a lot of meat and stuff stored in my refrigerator, so that's at least, or my freezer and stuff, that's at least 3 weeks, probably a month or more of food right there. That's not even counting all the stuff that we have stored. So just in the freezer and refrigerator alone, you're looking at a month of food probably. So that's your short-term foods. You want to eat that food first. And then if the disaster carries on, then you go into your medium-term foods. And that's stuff like you're looking at here, some of the canned goods and stuff that I store. That's medium storage stuff. A lot of these canned goods will last a couple of years. Some will last a little bit longer than that. But generally, you're not going to get more than like 3 or 4 years out of a canned good. That's why you have to constantly rotate your stuff. And then when you start picking foods, you really want to avoid salty foods. You don't want to eat a lot of foods that are high in salt. Yes, you do need salt, but you don't want to eat a lot of foods that are high in salt. There again, get foods with long shelf lives. We're going to go into a little bit more of this stuff here in just a minute. Get your high energy foods, stuff like peanut butter, pasta, granola bars, stuff like that. It's all great stuff. You want to get stuff like, ready to eat stuff, ready to eat canned meat, tuna, chicken. There's all kind of canned meats out there now. Sardines, if you're into sardines. Make sure you get comfort foods. Your comfort foods can be your granola bars or your candy bars. Guys, like I've said before, after a disaster, everybody's stress level is going to be really high. And children especially have a tendency not to eat when they're scared. And after a disaster, everybody's going to be scared. So you need to make sure you have those comfort foods that you know your kids are going to eat and you know yourself is going to eat. There again, kind of going back to don't buy a bunch of MREs if you know your family's not going to eat them. So get stuff that you're going to eat. And we'll talk about some more of this other stuff here in just a minute. And once you get all these other things, make sure you rotate your stuff out. Rotate, rotate, rotate. I can't tell you that enough times. I was going through my pantry one day and I probably threw away, $200 worth of food several years ago because I never rotated it. I didn't know that you were supposed to. At that time, I was new. I didn't know you were supposed to rotate your food. I bought a bunch of food and ended up, wasting it all. So rotate your food. Some other things you can do is when you go to the grocery store, you can copy can. Now, I kind of first heard this term off of Ron and Karen Hood's videos. Some of you may know who Ron Hood is. And they used the term copy canning. Basically, when you go to the grocery store and say you use, let's go mobile here. Take you over here to the table. Say you go to the grocery, one night you eat a can of lima beans. When you go to the grocery store for the week or whenever you go to the grocery store, the next time you're going to buy 2 cans of lima beans and put those back. Or say you eat 2 cans of lima beans at dinner. When you go to the grocery store, you're going to buy 4. And that way you build your stock up pretty quick. Build your reserves, start building your supply of food up. So, you copy can. Opportunity buy, coupon shopping. I just recently got into coupon shopping. I don't know why I haven't done this in the past, but I'm telling you guys, coupon shopping, that's the way to save money. I was never a firm believer until now. I talked to a bunch of people, but anyway, opportunity buy your items. So let's talk about some of the stuff I've got laid out here on the table. We'll start here with, like I said, the medium term stuff. Canned goods. There again, get canned goods that you eat all the time. Make sure you put in fruit. You have to have fruit in your diet. I know some people don't like fruit, but make sure you put in fruit. These are just some examples of stuff I've got here. Peas, corn, lima beans, pinto beans, stuff like that. Like we talked about before, your canned meats. Stuff like chicken, tuna, all that stuff is good to have. And then you have these cool these things. I like to take these backpacking and stuff sometimes. These little bags of potatoes and pastas and stuff that are flavored. Those things are great to have. Let's see, here I have just some canned jelly that I jarred myself. Strawberry jelly. Jarred that myself up. I do a bunch of that every year. Then kind of moving on to some other things like macaroni and cheese. Most kids like macaroni and cheese. I like macaroni and cheese, so we have a boatload of macaroni and cheese in the house. Yeah, that's not the greatest macaroni and cheese, and yeah, if you went out and bought the noodles and cheese and stuff and done it yourself, it's a whole lot better. But that stuff is cheap. It was like, 20 cents a box maybe. Cheap stuff. It gives you a good little meal, and it's not the most healthy meal, but it will give you a meal, and you cut up other things and put in it. Anyway, moving along. Mashed potatoes, these instant mashed potatoes. I didn't used to like instant mashed potatoes. And over the years, especially if people are sick and stuff, been throwing up, they don't want a whole lot of food, but we found out these mashed potatoes and these boxes and in these bags, they come in handy. You can get these in flavored as well. We have several boxes of regular mashed potatoes, instant, that are great. Stuff like spaghetti noodles and stuff, they come in handy. You can do thousands of things with just spaghetti noodles, different types of noodles, and spaghetti sauce. Spaghetti, a pound of spaghetti noodles and a couple jars of sauce. I have a family of 4. That'll feed us for 2 days. So, and you've got less than $5 in it. Maybe $3. In it. So, think about stuff like that. If you like spaghetti, you can store that. This stuff will last pretty much forever. If as long as it's kept dry, yeah, it might be a little bit stale, but it'll last pretty much forever because they're already dried. Rice. A lot of you preppers out there know about the rice and beans. Got some beans here too, just for examples. I'm getting ready here in the near future to start bulk buying rice and stuff. I hadn't done that in the future because I've just been trying to worry about getting my pantry and stuff stocked up right now. But I am going to start doing bulk stuff, bulk rice and beans, grains, stuff you're going to eat a lot. Oatmeal, stuff for breakfast. You're going to need breakfast foods. Make sure you get the breakfast foods. We like oatmeal in here at my house, so I got some quick oats. I also buy cereal a lot, so kids eat a lot of cereal. So that stuff there again, you're rotating it through. Oatmeal lasts several years, just like that. Or if you decide to Mylar it and stuff like that, it'll last virtually forever. Talked about already a little bit before, paper plates, spoons, napkins, cups, stuff like that. In a disaster situation, the last thing you want to do is wash dishes. You may or may not have the water to wash the dishes. So these paper plates and stuff, they come in handy. Great things to have. Comfort foods, there again. Guys, think about it. If you have a wife or a spouse, that time of the month, they usually crave chocolate. Gotta have comfort foods. We have, we don't eat a lot of junk food, but we do have, some things. Every once in a while we'll splurge and get these nutty bars and Swiss cake rolls. This is probably the first time we've had these in our house in a couple of months because we just don't eat a lot of junk food around here. But it's nice to have comfort food. When you're having a bad day, you can go and get you a nutty bar. Go get you a candy bar. Spices. Make sure you add in to your prep spices, even if you're just doing a short-term prep stuff. Just for short-term and not long-term. You decide you want to do short-term stuff, that's fine. Make sure you have spices. You have to have spices because rice alone, I can't eat rice by itself. I have to have salt or something in it. That is one of those things. I could if I had to. But add spices because with spices, stuff like hot sauce, if you're a hot sauce fan, stuff like that, with spices, you make your food go a long way. Then you start getting into some of the other stuff, some of the longer term stuff, long-term food. Like the, over here, the freeze-dried foods that I have. This is just some examples. There's some more oats there that's freeze-dried, some peas, some vegetable blend. I have, I don't know, however, other many cans of, long-term food storage I have. Mountain House meals, they last for 5 to 7 years, I believe. They're great for your bug-out bags. MREs, there again, they'll last for a long time. Great for your bug-out bags. I've got some stored for us just in case of a grab-and-go type of emergency if we can't get anything else out. I've got a Rubbermaid container of MREs that we can take. My family's not real fond of MREs, but they will eat them. We've tried several. That's one thing that we did one night is sit down and we had several MREs and just kind of tasted them, let them taste them. I know what they taste like, but I wanted them to taste them. So they said it's not their favorite, but they could live off of some of them if they had to. And then you have some of these Mainstay Energy bars and Daytrex bars, SOS bars, stuff like that. These are great for your bug-out bags as well. Not something that I'd want to store for my, everyday food stuff, but stuff that's, great to have, grab-and-go type stuff. So there's food. An overview of foods. This video's kind of went long. I try not to keep them long, but I'm going into 15 minutes here, so I'm sure y'all have done of hearing me rambling on. So if you have any questions, let me know. There again, I'm going to say it again. You're going to hear me say this a lot. I'm not the end-all expert on this, folks. There's a lot of videos out on YouTube regarding food storage and stuff. I'm just trying to get you prepared and start thinking about stuff for a disaster. Now, the disaster there again could be a short-term disaster. Hopefully not a crap hit the fan type situation. But if it is, you need to start preparing now. Then look back after the disaster occurred and say, dang, I wish I'd have prepared. And that's kind of what kick-started me in. But anyway, just some food stuff. If y'all have any questions, again, let me know. Feel free to chime in, comment. I like it when you guys comment on the videos and stuff, especially, I mean, you're just saying, hey, thanks for the video, great video. I really enjoy that. Me as a person that's putting videos out, I like to hear your input. I just don't like putting videos out there if you guys aren't watching them. So I like to hear your input. I like the interaction. That's why a lot of us do these YouTube videos. So anyway, y'all take care. I'll see you on another video. I appreciate it. Until then, be safe.